Awesome. Today we're super pumped to have Cyrus Fazel, co-founder of and CEO of Swissborg, which basically is a CFI, so centralized finance company making crypto asset management accessible to everyone. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you, Kevin, for making it as well, and glad to be here.
Nice. Yeah. So basically, as a background, so we're two Swiss guys, and we're here today in Dubai in this super cool setup to talk about DeFi, NFTs, and crypto in general.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, can you please tell us who you are and tell us about your background before crypto?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. So I'm from a Iranian and Swiss noble family. That means that was extremely wealthy and that lost everything. And I was born like a nouveau pauvre, not like a nouveau riche, so the opposite of that. So I saw my family, being, going through really a rough part when they had to flee out as to Iran and go to establish their lives in a foreign country because they lost their wealth. And back then I thought wealth was money. But the worst thing is not when you lose money, is when you lose lands, when you lose identity, when you lose sovereignty. And all of that combined together is what made me think first, I should become wealthy. Starting in 2006, I think so in Geneva in private banking, and then going into asset management, I thought wealth would be money. So I was trying to accumulate more money in order to save my family. But after a decade, I realized that wealth is just more than that. And if I'm doing the same thing in a centralized environment, maybe this same country that I'm living will be eventually going through a revolution and losing everything all again. And I started thinking, how can this change? And this is when, I got some Bitcoin like everyone for speculation reasons. And my dad I wanted to send a birthday present to my dad. And I started saying, well, maybe if I send him some Bitcoin, he could buy a present with him, right? And
when is that exactly?
2016. Okay. My dad was 70 back then. And I was able to send it over, and I started saying, oh my God, I could actually buy something in Iran and give it to my dad, without asking anyone. And I think so I started then understanding like the decentralization part of it, or at least the ownership of having that crypto. And if whatever happens in the world, I still own my own Bitcoins, right? And I think so this is when I start thinking, okay, how can we maybe potentially change the world? And, then after you get into Ethereum, start understanding what smart contracts and the whole DeFi started to take place in my mind with Anthony, the co-founder. And we said, okay, the world will be so different. Wealth will be able to be preserved in such a different way. And meaning wealth, again, it's, wealth, it's status, it's money, it's NFTs, it's lands, it's whatever you want with it. And that's really when I started saying, okay, we need to bring something new into crypto. So we need the Swiss, which is probably the only democracy in the world, which has direct democracy that you and I vote all the time with referendums. So really building this really great meritocratic type of organization. And you need the Borg because eventually we will become cyborgs. And I think so now the metaverse is showing this.
Awesome. You said basically wealth, you realize wealth is not just money. So what's your definition of wealth basically, and how did it change from when you started to try to build it until now?
Yeah, I could return the question to you. What's wealth to you, Kevin?
For me, basically it's having enough assets, no matter what they are, so that you can basically live off the interest or the passive income that you generate. So that basically you have all your time for yourself, and you can decide whatever you want to be working on without having any constraint, and whether what you're working on brings you money or not, because you're just doing something that makes sense to you.
Exactly. So the freedom of choosing what's the future, right? And I think so that's something that's extremely important that people don't realize. You could accumulate billions, but still be trapped into a prison, right? Where you could have potentially just a few amount of money, but still be very happy and have that freedom. And I think so that's where I think so crypto has a very strong play, which is, again, for me, wealth is being self-sovereign, making sure that you're in a habitat that you're able to choose what's going to be the future. We've seen just yesterday that in a centralized governments, a lot of bad things happen, war happen for no real reason, just an issue of ego. If we were in a decentralized autonomous organization, we would probably have voted for this war not to happen, and just would never happen. And I think so. This has a lot to do of crypto. It's not about only yielding and yield farming for getting richer and richer. It's really try to prove what's your financial identity and how you could contribute to have an impact in this world. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Maybe just before diving a bit deeper, much deeper into crypto, can you tell us about your hobbies when you were younger and now?
Yeah. I think so. I was always a futurist. A lot of people say, but Cyrus, are you a geek? And I was trying to always see what the future was, living in a young age and in the States and San Francisco, I saw really that expansion of video games and all of that. And I was really deeply involved into everything that was regarding, a computer or TV. And I thought this would be really, really cool. I think so gradually after I got really sucked into social media. I think so this was something that was really fascinating. And, when you get wiser with time now, obviously it's more like meditation and trying to think again, what's the future play and how can you take part in this future? Yeah.
You said basically like you were super interested into social media. That's really interesting because basically the previous internet wave. So it's kind of this meme, which is not really meme. You have this Web 1 thing, the internet in the 90s, where you could basically read information. Then you have Web 2 can basically read and write. So with the blogging and the mobile wave, basically, where you can not only read data information, but you can actually create it. Mm-hmm. And so how quickly, because you talked about crypto as kind of the money and wealth side, but how quickly did you and when did you realize that this entire crypto thing is actually much bigger than just the wealth part and the decentralization in terms of money and wealth and protection of your wealth, and it's actually the Web 3, so the new generation of the internet?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. I think so. When I moved from the States to France, I had it was extremely frustrating. I didn't speak the language, and the movies were 2 years delayed, and then long story short, the music I could never get it. And as a kid, I got introduced with my brother to Napster very quickly, and Napster for me was the game changer. Napster, I saw this as the first platform where me and you it was on a permission based, but you could share your library and start exchanging digital files, right? And music, it was as well, pictures.
Do you want just to give a bit of a context of Napster, when it is, what it is exactly, so people who maybe don't know about it can understand?
Yeah, in the late 90s, when tech was starting to bring the big thing into Silicon Valley, this was the first website where you're able to upload your library, and then there was a chat. You're able to chat to people and see what they had on the library and say, hey man, do you matter if I download one of your song? And the guy would be like, well, yeah, but I'm still on for internet for only 1 hour. Like, no, man, I need 3 hours to download your song. So he would be like, okay, well, what you have to share with me, right? So it was just like a free marketplace where people were able to freely trade. Obviously, it wasn't Web3 because, when you were able to download and upload multiple different times the same thing, but it still had that trading mentality. It was the first time it's like, I bring you this picture, you bring me, that movie file. No, not movies. It was more music files. And I think so this was the first part. Then, I heard about Bitcoin and all of that. I just saw that as really on the dark market. So most of my friends, which I saw, it was on dark market. So I was like, okay, this is, not where I was so interested at first. But then, when I understand the bigger picture of blockchain and Bitcoin and the product and the philosophy, that's what really I got sucked in. Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to maybe explain what happened to Napster and why it happened to it, and basically what the massive difference is with Bitcoin and Ethereum and Web3 in terms of like how government could basically shut down one thing and the other not.
Yeah, I think so. You just named it.
Yeah.
You just said it's perfect. I mean, centralized technology is fantastic because it's very fast, right? But it's very fast to build. I mean, it's very fast. It's very slow to actually to build, but it's very fast to cut down. And we've seen this with all of these different peer-to-peer platforms, right? BitTorrent's still on, and if any BitTorrent developer community members still listening to this, congratulations to you guys. But yeah, all of these different websites, such as Napster, Kaza, LimeWire, Emu, eDonkey, all of these guys were legends. They were the guys that supported this peer-to-peer culture. It was centralized, but the wrap that was on top when Bitcoin arrived was that decentralized network and that incentive as well, economic, to actually devote your power. Because, you know, again, if you're on BitTorrent and you're letting people download in your library, it's great because you're sharing your files, but you're not getting any incentive besides that really cool way of thinking. And I think so, you know, yeah, Bitcoin had, well, obviously cryptographic and things that are a little bit technically better, but that decentralized matter, which was really, really cool, I think so. And on top of that, in that incentive economic to actually mine and I think so that was the big game changer for sure.
Awesome. So basically, you already kind of told us about how you got into crypto, but can you be a bit more specific about how you exactly discovered it? I mean, you said you talked to some friends, but like, what's the kind of aha moment for you to really think like, oh, this is actually something? I mean, first, how did you discover it? And then like, what was really the aha moment? Because we all had, I mean, everybody had probably like some time where we're just like dismissing the idea and thinking this is just weird or whatever, it's not going to work, or it's a scam, or it's used only for bad stuff. What made you change your mind?
Well, I didn't get first into it is that I remember back in 2013, 14, the platforms really sucked. So I was like, and the other one was American. So I was like, no, I don't want to give my ID or things like that to American companies. I know that, you know, that was the opposite of Bitcoin. So I was like, no, that's not for me. The aha moment is really, I mean, when I explained when I send these Bitcoins and I saw that, you know, Bitcoin didn't have any political agenda. If I'm able to send Bitcoins to a person in Iran, which I can't do with my Swiss bank account, which I can't do with PayPal, which I can't do with anything else. I think so. That was the moment I was like, okay, this is the big game changer, because this is how I'm going to be paying anything to all my family that are still based in Iran, right? Which is my dad and a few uncles and things like that. And I think this was like the great moment. The other one is when Anthony explained me Ethereum, because that was late 2016. You know, I was, you know, I thought first, you know, Ethereum was another Litecoin. I was like, well, you know, okay, it may be cheaper to send, but a little bit more scalable, you know, but is it really going to be the killer app? No, it's still electronic money. And then when I understand what's a smart contract and what Ethereum's purpose is really to develop a new infrastructure that you could build a lot of different apps, I saw everything. I saw like, okay, Uber's done. Facebook is done. Airbnb is done. And then I'm like, Anthony, I was like, dude, let's just set up a fund. You know, create a fund out of this wallet, distribute these tokens that represents shares of the fund, and let's you know, create a decentralized fund. And then more that we got into this, and like, what about the lending? Back then we had discussions with the ETH lend as well in 2017. And if people don't know what ETH lend is, it's Aave, and Aave today is the best protocol, I believe, in DeFi that exists. There was still no DEXs, but we you know, I mean, there was DEXs, but it's just that it was not the best. It was DEX is bad, and they were not that decentralized. But we really saw the emergence of how essentially Ethereum could be, essentially the infrastructure of so many different killing apps. Obviously, it took more time that we wanted, but we're going there, and we're getting there. I mean, and that's what makes it so exciting.
So maybe as a recap of what you say, which is super important, is for people who are still basically wondering about this crypto thing, like what you said basically was your aha moment is trying the thing, like basically using the thing, trying it for yourself, and then only you can actually make up your mind on whether it's useful or not. And that's so important. And actually related to using Bitcoin as a kind of medium of basically medium of payment. What do you think about how Bitcoin is seen now and the evolution of Bitcoin in terms of the philosophy of Bitcoin? And do you think it really fulfilled its mission, or it became something else that it was supposed to do? And I want to talk basically about stable coins and what do you think about the difference between the stable coins and basically Bitcoin for exactly the purpose that you talked about before, which is sending money from one place to another.
Right. I mean, I always think about Bitcoin as being the Old Testament. And, no one really fights Abraham, right? Regardless of whatever your monotheist religion is, Abraham's the cool dude. And that's true. If you're Jewish, Muslim, Shia, Sunni, Christian, everyone pretty much agrees on that fact, at least that one. And, is it going to be the digital peer-to-peer cash that it intentionally wanted to be? Is it going to be completely anonymous like people want it to be? Maybe not, but doesn't really matter. If it's same to go that with Swissborg, we talk about it after, is that when you're on a mission and then your mission, evolves into some different layers that are slightly different, but you're still attached to that same focus, which is decentralizing the world, making it, a better place that could enable people to have no religion, to Bitcoin, have no color, have no political agenda. I think so that keeps the beauty of it. And, more today, it's probably looked at as a digital gold. And I think so it'll probably evolve as a digital gold. And maybe if Lightning really, grows, Lightning Network. So for those who don't know, it's the way to really be able to essentially make Bitcoin more scalable and obviously frictionless. Maybe it will happen, but if it doesn't, it doesn't really matter. It already has been the greatest ambassador of crypto, and probably will remain one of the greatest ambassador, even if it will maybe probably lose to being the top one crypto, I believe, in the future.
Okay, awesome. So you basically talked about the moment you understood Ethereum and the potential application that could be built on the top and the potential future it could basically create. So is that the turning point that made you decide to go full time and build a company in the space?
Yeah, 100%. Like the first initial idea of Swissborg in 2015 was to create a robo-advisor that would be B2B to C. So it's how to create tailor-made investment portfolios based on different constraints. And that was cool because a lot of people need to have, unique portfolios. But early 2017, first we didn't raise so much money. And we were not that successful, which was great.
But that was not crypto related,
No.
right? Okay.
Purely investment, stocks, indices, things like that, ETFs.
Okay.
And we didn't call this a robo-advisor. We called that a cyborg advisor. It was how we're portraying this thing. And early 2017 is that we didn't raise money. And we're talking every day about crypto. So, it's like, and we started getting like a lot of interest from family offices. And then I was like, sorry guys, we're changing our idea. We're pivoting. We'll get back to that, but that thing's going to come into crypto. And that was what our mindset. And it was like, it doesn't matter. This is the underlying technology is the one we're going to be able to touch the entire world. And then the great thing was that early 2017, I started saying to Anthony, I was like, let's do an ICO like Ethereum. They did an ICO. And we still have these WhatsApp. It's really cute. I think it was early March. And he was like, yeah, let's do an ICO like Ethereum, right? And we loved the crowdfunding model. We thought this was the best model in the world because you're not getting investors. I mean, you're getting investors, but you're getting community members. And that's like the most powerful way to build a sustainable business, right?
Do you want to explain again, like for people who have absolutely no idea about this ICO thing, like basically what Ethereum made possible and why anyone and you guys could really benefit from it, and basically tell us about your own story of what happened, the good and the bad, basically.
Yeah. So that's a very long one, but essentially in March 2017, we said, okay, let's go for an ICO. We tried to look for a lot of different platforms to do an ICO, and
what's an ICO?
Oh, sorry, initial coin offering.
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's an event where you say like, hey guys, I have this wonderful product or white paper and vision, more importantly, and that I have a token. And with this token, we're going to change the world or change the industry and make something better out of it, right? And this event happens that you decide a time frame of maybe from 1 day to 1 month or more, or rolling ICOs like EOS did for a year. And you say like, okay, I'm going to sell my token and you're going to buy it with crypto or with fiat. And as Anthony and myself, we're always put the bar a bit too high. We're like, we have to do an ICO with fiat. We have to do an ICO multi-chain. And this is back in 2017. So multi-chain is very complex back then. And all the platforms that we're trying to work with, we just realized that, long story short, they didn't fit our expectations. So again, we put the bar a little bit higher and we built our own platform. And this took a bit of time, and we had to raise the community. We were not the OGs of crypto. Maybe today we are, but back then we were the new kids on the block. And long story short, it happened during December 10th to January 8th. And the first days was great. So people started, we opened the ICO, people started participating. But if people remember what happened in late December, early December of 2017, CryptoKitties was the first NFT crazy project. So this put the gas price of Ether out of the roof. So no one wanted to send us thing. But then the cool thing is that as we were expecting XRP, so Ripple, for those who know it, Dash, and Litecoin, and I don't even know what the other ones, Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, people start participating, but not as much as we wanted to. So the first few days was okay. And then after was the desert. And I remember being in the office 25th of December alone in Gotham and Lausanne. And I was like, what's happening? No one's on our website. Nothing is happening. We're getting like $10,000 per day. I'm like, oh, we're never going to reach this hard cap. And then never know why.
What was the hard cap goal?
52 million Swiss francs. Yeah.
52 million. Okay. So just as a recap before we continue. So an ICO enables anyone with an idea or a concept to raise money from anyone else anywhere on the planet, basically. So it's kind of democratizing the private equity, basically. Anyone can invest in a project, and that's what you guys did, basically. Okay, so continue the story. So that's the desert, and then
the desert came, and then 31st of December, we changed our website. My brother talking all the time. Stani actually helped there. Stani, he's like, dude.
Stani, who is
the founder of Aave.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he's like, guys, why is why is this not happening so well? You're like one of the best project. You're super decent guys. So Stanley started saying to all the Aave, so they just to the ETH land back then, said to his community, like, guys, wake up, right? And we start having a lot of different like super cool big influencers, founders of different projects saying, same with the guy from 10X and a lot of different other groups around the world saying, these guys are super legit, why is it not happening? And then suddenly we did like a bounty of 5% on the 31st. And we started getting like 1 million worth of crypto on 31st. The day after 2 million, then 5 million, then 10 million, then 15 million, then 20 million. And then on January 7th, we reached our hard cap. we had over 1 million people per day on our website that was logging in. And we closed the ICO, and people were like, "No, we want to get in, we want to get in," and obviously it was too late. Amazing, best experience, I think so, in entrepreneurship. We didn't sleep. I lost 10 kilos. We were crying and all that. So it was so beautiful. And the sad story is
just you raised most of this money in ETH.
No, actually,
or it was
not.
still like a mix of.
No, I think so. We did like 10 or 15 million in cash.
Okay.
Euro, GBP, USD. We were crazy.
Okay, you had the infrastructure to actually raise money in cash. Okay, awesome.
We did cash, like 10, 15 million. Then we did a big portion of Bitcoin, big portion of ETH. And then like, yeah, some other cryptos like XRP and things like that. And then January 8th happened and crypto winter happened. So those 52 million, 1 week later was 42 million. 2 weeks later, it was 30 million. So, this is what is the beauty of life, is that there's always the yin and the yang, and you have to really enjoy the good moments and enjoy even better the really hard moments.
Can you just define crypto winter and tell people basically how long the winter and how cold the winter was?
Yeah. So I'm not a Wim Hof artist. So like I do like deep breathing, and I got into lakes and all of that now. So I'm used to these crypto winters morally and physically as well. The crypto winter was 2 years of depression. Probably, 40 years from now, they will talk about two depressions, 1929 and 2018. And those were the two massive depressions. This is where people like, we're going to change the world until January 7th to you guys are scammers. And that was a little bit the harsh part, because our token lost 90%. But like the market.
Like all of them did. Yeah.
Ether lost 90% too. And it's very hard moments because you lose the team, you lose confidence, you lose a lot of community members, and the news were not very nice. Like we had a newspaper in Switzerland call us like the biggest scammers, all of that. And that's when I think so it's very important to be on a mission. And we've always thought about democratizing wealth management by making it fun, fair, and community centric. And that was really that thing that every day, if I have this Swissborg here or the Swissborg here or Swissborg on my watch or Swissborg on my phone, it shows that you're on a strong mission, and you have to dedicate yourself to this. We vested our tokens for 4 years to make sure that people, will have skin in the game 4 years later. And you really have to hire the best people and foster your community in the bad times, right? Like it's super easy to show off and say, hey man, let's go to the moon when everything is, in summertime. But when it's a crypto winter for 2 years, you have to really edutain your community, build what you promised, and hopefully deliver it.
Yeah, that's an incredible, basically, definition of entrepreneurship in general, because like most people, they think that you go build a business to make money, when it's actually not true, because if it's the only purpose, you'll never go through, you'll never make it. So you want to have this basically much bigger thing, which is the purpose of what you're building, so that you can go through the tough times, which often are basically, most of the times are tough time, because you're just, the life of an entrepreneur is basically just, I don't know how to say this in English, but like extincting fires all the time. Like there's just dealing with issues. And if you don't have a purpose, like you're just not going to make it.
Very true.
Awesome. So can you give us maybe some numbers about your like pretty impressive growth over the last 3 years? So basically start in the depth of the crypto winter, and then like what happened basically in terms of number of employees, and whatever you feel is relevant for people to understand the super impressive companies that you've built.
So we went from 2 people in January 2017 to 15 people by the end of the ICO, then reduced this to 7 because a lot of people left. Grew to 300 people now at Swissborg. which is a really great mix of a lot of different entrepreneurs, from tech to governance to product to marketing and a lot of other things. The token went from 8 cents to 12 cents to 0.01 cents to $1.60, back to now whatever 50 cents or 60 cents. The products we built went from websites to this ICO platform to a game, one of the first play to earn game that's still there. It's called Crypto Challenge, to building Swissborg app, which is today one of the great meta exchange. And we've built obviously a lot of different things, which is first the meta exchange itself. So how to aggregate a lot of different exchanges, the smart engine that enables you to buy and sell with best execution. Then the smart yield that it gets you, enabled you to get into DeFi within a few clicks, and so much more to be developed in the near future. Yeah.
Awesome. So this is really great, but there is increasing and tighter regulations. So I just wanted to know, basically, especially on CeFi companies. So we had recently BlockFi that had to pay a pretty big fine. So I just wanted to know, like, very briefly, how do you deal with this and this kind of uncertain future about the regulations?
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you're in DeFi, it's probably much easier because you don't have support, you don't have legal, you don't have KYC, you don't have so many different bricks, right? You just have to concentrate on the motor, was essentially smart contracts and Web3 applications. If you're in a centralized world, it's very different because, you have to really, from onboarding, make sure that KYC is well done, make sure that AML is well done on a name basis, but on a chain basis as well. Then you have to make sure that the exchange works well, and that the support works well, and that the ticketing, the payment works well. And you have to make sure that you're working with the different banks, different infrastructure. If you're, as us, multi-fiat gateway, you have different 18 fiat gateways. You have to work with a lot of different banks. We offer individual IBANs, so you have to work again with new technology. If you want to start accepting credit cards, debit cards, and different payments solutions, you have to start working with the best companies like checkout.com. And all in all, these old businesses I just said, these are all super regulated. So first, what you have to do is hire a very good team in governance structure that goes from legal, regulatory, accounting, payments as well, treasury, and you have to figure out where you're going to be based, and which type of users you're going to onboard. If you're going for the US or if you're going for Swiss, it's a very different market. And in Europe, the saddest part is that now we're still not with MiCA. MiCA, it's the main regulatory body that will regulate crypto and harmonize crypto in Europe. So for the time being, you have to essentially start to look in different countries where you want to be, and then start to see what are the different licenses. We started with Malta first. We thought that Malta was going to be the great hub. It totally, unfortunately, was illusional. It just didn't happen. So we got regulated over there, did the whole thing, but no banks were there, and just didn't happen. So from that, we moved to Estonia. Estonia being the most digital country in the world. Only one have their digital passports, and everything is voted digitally. There's no, essentially, you can't print paper over there. So we thought that this would make sense, and it would make sense as well because there's already like strong tech background. There's Skype that was born out of there. There's a lot TransferWise and other different companies. So we got regulated with FIU in Estonia for depositing crypto and being able to exchange that crypto with fiat. And then we started to look at different licenses in Switzerland as well to offer it in Switzerland. Right now we're looking in Liechtenstein as well. We are, looking at in France with the PESAN, and essentially talking with FSA in UK. So it's always very interesting to realize that you just can't do this quickly. And I think so. People say like, oh, but that's a problem. I'm like, no, that's a solution. Right now, it's a pain because you have to do it in every country, but at least it protects the users. It protects the data. It protects the funds. It protects essentially the whole chain of action. And regulators are not a pain. I mean, they might take time to explain them what you're doing, but eventually this is how you get to mass adoption. And
Exactly.
There's no other way else.
You're actually doing a huge service for the entire industry by taking the time to make the regulation move forward, basically.
And most regulators, I strongly believe that their job is they like their job. They're not here to punish people. Besides maybe if you're in the US, which is a different market. But at least in Europe, what we've seen so far, it's a lot of smart regulators that take the time to listen to what you're doing and then hopefully put in place the right way to make sure that you are being very innovative, and at the same time you're trying to fulfill what has been done in the past and make sure that innovation still could happen. Yeah.
So maybe can you tell us exactly what Swissborg is and why did you choose the asset management space to start?
Right. Working in 10 years in asset management for me was, and Anthony, same thing, the co-founder, we had this expertise. And the sad thing about finance and investment is that, everyone has an iPhone or a Samsung phone, but no one owns these shares, right? Like you're using their product. You old guys are watching Netflix and Spotify. 99% of you don't have shares there. Okay. So you're users, but you're not investors. And the investors are taking out the lucrative way. When people tell me like, but Cyrus, why have you been so, how much AliExpress goodies do you have at home? I'm like, because Alibaba was one of my best investment. I bought it back then in 2008 on the first IPO on the Hong Kong exchange. And then I bought it in 2014 when it did IPO on NASDAQ. And for me, it was more like testing their products and, I was yielding a lot. So it was a good way for me. Same for Amazon, same for Netflix and all these companies. I always said that, if I'm investing, I'm going to be using them. It's as easy as that. Apple and all these things. And, but people are not interested because most of the apps or most of the financial advisors usually don't bring a really good, user experience. And that was our big thing at Swissborg. We'll say, how can you make it fun? How can you make it fair as well? Make it very transparent. And then how can this community could start to have some sovereignty on the decisions of what should we do at Swissborg and really involve them? Because if you're voting for something, most probably you're going to be a very active citizen. And that's what's happening in Switzerland, right? We do care about our values. We do care about what's happening. We do care if we're going to condemn publicity for cigarettes for children, which we just voted recently, and that passed that one. And I think so that's exactly what we thought about. And so then how can you create a wealth management ecosystem on crypto? And we said, okay, what's the biggest pain? Going from fiat to crypto and going from crypto to fiat. That's the biggest problem. And so we said, okay, let's try to see how we could target a multi-fiat gateway that will be seamless. Okay, so that's why we created a way with an instant SEPA with GBP or even with Swiss francs, we get it within the same day. And that you have a virtual IBAN for Euro and for GBP and other different currencies. So like that, you send it in your name. It's very easy for taxes reasons. It's just more transparent and it's a better experience. So we figured that out in 2020. That went really well. On top of that, we said, how can people start profiting like being extremely intense trader? So we said, well, with aggregating all these top exchanges such as Binance, LMAX, Bitfinex, HitBTC, you'll be able to get the best price when you're buying with Bitcoin, you're buying whatever you want with different fiats or crypto, by making sure that we find this smart routing that essentially enables you to go from your fiat or your crypto to the other fiat or the other crypto in the best way. And this is completely transparent. It really finds a smart routing. Sometimes there's like 12 trades just for that one exchange. And that enables you, again, to get the best experience. And you see the computation, and you see that you really profit from this inefficient market by doing this arbitrage that's automatically done for every user. So that was really the two first big bricks that we built was Swissborg. And I think so that was like when we started growing, our community in 2020. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you said that you think, or you thought that the reason people don't invest is because of the user experience, or because it's not great experience, or it's not fun to invest. Do you think it's probably part of the issue, but do you think it's the main issue, or do you think the main issue is education? And talking about that, basically, can you tell us why it is so important for people to invest their money?
Yeah, like I said, edutainment's our business. We edutain all the time. I do a show on every Tuesday. My brother does a show every Wednesday. Back in 2017, every month we would do a lot of, in different places in the world, we would do all these different meetups and edutain people all the time, and have like fun ways to interact with the community. That's extremely important. That's one of the most important thing. And, we've seen Roger Ver and all these guys that have been pioneers in Bitcoin, thanks to their entertainment and thanks to their pushing this and showing what's the big mission of these different crypto. And the second question was,
why is it so important for people to invest their money?
Yeah, and why? Well, look, if you haven't invested in the last 2 years, you lost 10%. That's as easy as that. Inflation is something that really hurts you. And not only you don't compound your wealth by doing that, but you're losing money. So it's as easy as that. Though the 10 euros you used to have are worth now 9 euros. And that's the minimum. And in some countries, it's much worse.
As a recap, a lot of people basically work and they earn money, and they don't realize that this money, if it stays in cash, is actually losing purchasing power and value over time. And it's happening at a pretty frightening rate now. So that's the main reason you want to invest. First, to not lose purchasing power in time, and second, it's actually to build wealth, so you can basically, as we were talking about before, build wealth faster, reach financial freedom faster, retire earlier, so you can then dedicate your life to whatever matters most to you.
And invest in what you love.
So basically, based on why it's important for people to invest their money, why is generating interest on your crypto so important as an investor? Or why is basically the yield part so important on any investment, and then maybe in crypto? To be more.
That's the perfect second part. So end of 2020, we're like, okay, we figured this out, how to get into crypto with the best experience, and get out of crypto the best experience, and trade crypto with the best experience. But is that enough? No, it's not. If you use technology and you just hold your Bitcoin and you put it on a ledger and you just like map it out for 10 years, and that's good, but that's not great. Investing in crypto is good. Using crypto, it's much better. And it's technology at the end that we're building. And we said, okay, let's go back to what Stani is doing, okay, at Aave. So the founder of Aave. And he's creating a platform where you're able to lend your crypto and then borrow other crypto, right? And you could get more leverage by doing that. And you could get a yield as well by doing so, right? So there's two ways to work this out, is rather you're lending or rather you're borrowing. And in one case, you get more leverage, and this could help you to invest in a different way, or another way you get some yield based on the interest of your lending. And this is really when the DeFi started. So we started working with Aave, with Compound, all the very legit, I would say early stage 2020 projects. And we start saying to the community, hey guys, if you deposit your USDC or your Ether or your Bitcoin, you're going to start to get a yield on, and we're not going to lend this to brokers like many other centralized CeFi platforms do. We're actually going to deposit this into liquidity pools. So on these decentralized financial applications where people could rather work as a DEX, so decentralized exchange like Uniswap, or on these different lending platforms, such as Aave, Compound, and other ones. And this is where we said, okay, this is going to fulfill very well our mission, and because it's going to be transparent, it's going to be fair, and it's going to be very community centric because it's very crypto related. And we started doing that. We grew from few millions in end of 2020 to over 1.5 billion in assets at the end of 2021 into DeFi. And the most beautiful thing about what we've been able to achieve is not only the good yield, but I'll ask you a question, Kevin. Every month we have 70 people that join the platform. Half of them deposit fiat and get into crypto. The other half do the same thing, but get into DeFi and start yielding. Do you know how old this cohort is? It's those 35 people.
I'd say probably in their early 20s.
They're over 80 years old.
Okay.
Don't worry. Everyone makes the same thing. So this really shows the democratizing, because democratizing is not just to bring Gen Zs and people my age. It's to be able to collectively bring anyone. And these grandfathers that are, some are British, some are French and Swiss are saying, well, my grandchildren want crypto. And I just understand that there's interest rates. It reminds me 20, 30 years ago, I used to have great interest rates as well on fiat. And I don't understand the whole DeFi concept, but I understand I'm getting a yield, and this will enable people, my grandchildren, to have, more funds. And I think so that's the beauty of what we're building, is within 2-3 clicks, you're able to go from fiat to yielding. And using this technology is something very important for me.
Awesome. So you were basically pretty early in all this yield stuff because it was the beginning of DeFi. But now we have almost every crypto platform offering interests on people's deposits in a way or another. Sometimes you don't have to do, sometimes a click, sometimes a few clicks. So how do you how do you keep a competitive edge in the most competitive industry in the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. The roadmap of this year is going to be super freaking exciting. And, I think so the experience, even though if we don't develop anything, I still believe it's much easier than other platforms. The rates might not be as high in other platforms, and we might be a little bit competition less compared to some other platforms, but at the end, being regulated, being in Europe, being able to have this very easy click and to get into DeFi is something great. But now that we're gonna release something completely new, it's going from the smart yields to the new name that we still haven't figured out, but let's call it the Smart Yield 2.0. Is we look at 3 different aspects to yielding. The first one is risk, because people don't realize that if you're on one of these AAA platforms such as Convex or Curve or Compound or Aave, or if you're on just this really new one, the risk is very different. And with the risk, that means is that you could have permanent losses that you could essentially lose all. And that's something people should realize about DeFi. And it has happened to personally, we were always testing a lot of platforms and our investment DeFi team is sometimes having some losses. So that's the first big break, is to understand what are the risks. If you're staking on Ethereum 2.0, if you're staking your Ether on different platforms, that's different. So try to bring in more and more staking. So making sure that the lowest risk, then changing the duration. Right now at Swissborg, within 24 hours, you could unstake and it's great. But I think so going forward, what we want to start, evolving is how people could start say like, okay, I'm happy to stick for 1 year, and I'll do Ethereum 2.0, get my 4 or 5%. That's enough for me. I believe in Ethereum. 1 year from now, it's going to be great. So the second is the duration of the lock of your crypto, and the third is the payout. The payout will be that so we start getting into green mining. with our partners. Actually, some we're going to meet tonight here in Dubai. If you start staking your USDC, imagine you could get a payout in Bitcoin, right? And that's because essentially you're renting hours of mining on these on Bitcoin mining farms, and then you could get payout in Bitcoin. So these are really the three different aspects that how we're going to change this game, is offering tailor-made essentially yield strategies where you could go from changing the risk, then making sure that your lock is what you like, and then third, it's the payout.
Okay, amazing. Can you talk about basically other innovations that you're doing beside DeFi?
Yeah, there's 5 bricks in investment, I believe. The first one is buying crypto or single stocks. The second one is getting into credit. So this is DeFi. It's the yield part and bonds and all that goes with it. The third part, it is ETFs, like thematics. Being able to see, like, I'm convinced by a theme, I'll invest into this ETF. The fourth is all these launch pads and VC types, early stage, private rounds and things like that you know very well. And the last one is all the new digital arts and the gaming, which is NFTs. So we did the number one very well. We're working very hard on the number 2, which is the credit. The third is about the thematics. And this is really what we're going to be playing this year, is how someone could say, like, oh, I believe in metaverse, but should I buy Mana? Should I buy Decentraland? Should I buy whatever new token? Well, maybe you don't need to know that. You just need to know what is the theme. And very, in general, it's very easy to see what themes are going to work. However, it's very, very hard to see which is the right crypto or which is the right stock. And if you look at 2017, the top 10, everything has changed besides Bitcoin and Ethereum. And every year we see this change constantly, right? So the idea here is to offer a bundle where people will be like, okay, I want to go, let's say ESG. I will only want to look on cryptos that are good for environment and social governance tokens. We'll pick that theme. It'll be rebalanced into your wallet, and people won't need to do the hard work. Just stick to that theme. So that's going to be the big change. It's not going to be an ETF. It's going to be more a Web3 thematic that people actually will have those tokens into their wallets.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome and so needed, absolutely. Because as you said, picking the right coins is very difficult.
It's madness.
Yeah. Okay. Can you define? First, what excites you the most about the current state and the future of Web3?
Yeah, I mean, with the really the horrible news that happened yesterday when Russia declared war to Ukraine, I think so we really have to see this governance models evolving. And the DAOs that were back in 2017-18, they're still like really cool one. I mean, Gnosis has killed it, and hi to all the Gnosis community members. And I think so we need more and more different, decentralized autonomous organizations. I think so this could be a very interesting theme, and some of them are really cool, like Nouns, what the fuck, if you guys don't know that.
Can you just define what a DAO is and what are the key principles of how it works and why it's so different than current organization that we have today?
Yeah. They're evolving a lot. So back in the idea is that there's no company that manage this crypto mission. So what people do is that they buy these different tokens and then set up an organization that it's decentralized, and people could essentially create initiatives. By the way, exactly the same thing in Switzerland, just to name it. And then people could vote on these initiatives. If the initiatives pass, then, well, the team, a dedicated team, will then have to pass this initiative. And this could be on any matter. It could be something very very serious. It could be something very goofy and very fun, right? And what we've seen in the past 5 years is that has been some great initiatives and some that fell out for different reasons. And the great thing is what we're seeing right now is that we're seeing as well new DAOs a lot with NFTs. And I really like that aspect to it, because people, when you buy an NFT, I mean, it's not necessarily true, but for at least some people, I don't sell NFTs, for example. I buy NFTs. I buy crypto tokens and I potentially sell them. But what I see as an NFT for me is a trace I don't want to keep, that my grandchildren, grandchildren said, hey, why did our great-grandfather collect all these NFTs? Why did he play all these video games? Why did he do that? And going back to DAOs, is that usually these NFTs right now are there to give you the right to pronounce, your vote, or to present an initiative. And this is evolving in a very interesting way as I see it. Just as mentioned, yeah, nouns, that what the fuck is WTF is a very interesting one. Yeah, that is definitely going to be something we're going to be looking forward, because very often these DAO have a big treasury, and this treasury could then take a lot of different actions based on what people are voting. And it's just a new way of thinking how you could build a new society, a new citizen model, and how you could define what's the future of this organization.
Awesome. So can you maybe just define what NFTs are for dummies?
Yeah. So non-fungible tokens, I believe, was created by a Swiss person, which is called Shaban. And the idea behind an NFT was to create a token that was non-fungible, so you cannot divide it. And it's a digital certificate that provides you ownership of whatever that token represents. And it could be art, it could be a skin in a game, it could be a share of a fund, it could be a citizenship of a country, it could be really whatever. It could be a certificate of land, and it's probably one of the very interesting scalable solutions for Web3, because you get this, like, if this podcast becomes a set of NFTs, everyone could own that special moment and say, oh, Kevin, in that moment, he said that. I'm now going to put it on my website. I'm going to put it in a music. I'm going to put it in a movie. And that will be my own, ownership and my own digital right to that. And that's why it's really cool. So I really see this growing for this year, these DEOs, and obviously the second would be NFTs. NFTs is really, it's a growing thing. It's easier to understand. People like memes. Now you could own those memes. People like being part of these organizations. You could be part of this organization as well.
Just to make it even more clear, because it's still pretty abstract for a lot of people. If you say, okay, it's an NFT is a kind of digital file that you can own and whose ownership can be proven on the blockchain. But like, if we talk more about, this is more technical, but if we talk more about the kind of social definition, can you give us some examples of how an NFT is basically an access key to a community and what it enables you to do, and how basically it relates to DAOs? Like, do you have one or two like concrete example of either what happened, or either how this could be used by businesses, bands, brands, or artists to basically build much stronger relationship with their audience and turn them into kind of evangelists?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. Okay, so let's say that, I don't know, any music group wants to buy all their music rights for whatever reasons, right? And it's worth $10 million. Well, maybe he could say to 10,000 fans, if you buy my NFT at $1,000, I will put all of these music rights into a DAO, and we will all co-own the music rights of this artists. And then basically this DEO could then vote, could maybe get money out of these things, and could maybe decide of how the treasury or how these different essentially digital files will belong to this community, and how they could profit from it, how then they could vote on what will be the next concert and who will be the next place where they'll do different jam sessions and this and that. And it's a new way to say like, okay, and any business I have these products, I have this things, but why not we together co-own essentially all this business, and how can we move this business in the future, and how can every fan not only own different of these digital files, but be parts of this new governance model where you could finally decide, what's the next big thing. And maybe for the music is not the best example, but maybe you could think about that as a football club, right? Take any football club and at the end co-own it. And I think so for Barcelona, that's pretty much the model. They already have FC Barcelona, but do that with any football club, and that would be the best thing ever, right?
But can you be even more precise and explain what's in it for the person or the business that emits the NFT? Why would you co-own if you can own everything? I mean, I definitely think it makes much more sense, but why concretely does it make more sense to co-own with your audience and fans and customers than just to keep everything for yourself? Because at the end of the day, you're sharing a lot of things. You're sharing also financial benefits with people. So you might think that, if you think short term at least, what's the advantage of doing that?
I mean, it's the same thing as everything. Like, if you're at your birthday party and you have like a massive cake and like great music and a lot of toys, but you're by yourself, it's not going to be a very successful birthday party, right? It's going to be a miserable one. And at the end, I think so. One of the best thing about Web3 is communication. We already have it, but co-ownership and collaboration is the big mission of Web3. And again, how you could create something that is much bigger, that has a much bigger impact, and how you pass it on to people is something really great. We've seen with nouns, .wtf, every day they have a new noun which has glasses. And the great thing out of nouns is that each time you get a noun, you're part of this DAO. If you're part of this DAO, you could pass an initiative, you could vote on initiatives. And these initiatives could be like, let's be on the Super Bowl and do an advertisement for that. And people are like, oh yeah, I want to be on the Super Bowl. That's super cool. But it could be as well, let's now, with all the Ukrainians, so they have over 20,000 Ether today announced. What if we get now 2,000 Ethers to all the Ukrainians because we think that they're in hardship right now? And this is exactly what the DAO is having a strong purpose, having a strong recognition, and then with their treasury, with their great ideas, vote on different initiatives to essentially have an impact. And it could be working on whatever you feel that is the right thing. And it's just a very democratic way of building new ways to essentially change the world.
Okay. So how are you guys basically participating at Swissborg into this NFT side of the future?
Yeah. So that's a part that we've been working with Engine for a long time. We've built different video games with them, and there's like really cool play to earn games. Is in 2019 and 2020. People were not as exciting about that. But we did some cool things there. Each time we do events, people are able to scan all the premium users that we have in the Swissborg app, get these different NFTs as well. And it's all done through essentially Engine for now. And the idea is to how then obviously bring this into the app, which is obviously something very important for us. And or as well, how to build this in a decentralized manner as well, right? I think so. Those are the big future things. We have side projects that I'm not allowed to talk about regarding these NFTs and different play to earn things, but we're working on side projects that this will be a great way to tap into the fifth chamber of wealth, which is NFTs. Yeah.
Awesome. So now let's talk about, I think it's one of the things that you like to talk the most about, which is basically the kind of philanthropic and philosophic aspect of crypto. Maybe to kind of wrap up today, like what's what are for you the most important things that this crypto and Web3 thing are bringing that are so important in kind of a philanthropic side and philosophic side?
Yeah, I think so. Something that's maybe small for now, but you really have to make sure that every token that you invest in, you're aligned with the mission. That's the first thing. Everyone always says like, "Oh, are you gonna pump? Is this token gonna pump?" Yeah, maybe, but it really has to be more connected to what you want to do, right? The pump, you could pump as well. Like if I told you today there was a token that was called the Putin token, and would pump each time it would kill 50 soldiers in Ukraine, would you buy it or not? Like I would short it for sure. And I think so that's extremely important for people to realize that you have to invest into things you believe in, not in things that you think is going to pump, because the pump, yeah, it's good, but it's not going to change you, and it's not going to clear your karma. That's for sure. And I think so the Swissborg token, we always try to have like ways to stake it and get to premium, get more powers into the ecosystem and more governance around it. And I think so that is where the social governance is very important. And then the other part is the environmental one. And, we know now that, Bitcoin is not the cleanest token, right? We know that a lot of new proof of stakes ones have better protocols. And I think so this is where we start to have to think about what is the future, right? Before getting into just paying out and things. So Swissborg, we said, okay, how much environmental impact are we creating? How can we essentially clean this out by doing green mining, by doing investing into building trees and all of that? And I think so that is the future that I would like to see is like, imagine you have a yield on dollars, which is regular yield and whatever risk and whatever payout. But then you have another one, which is that you have to commit for 1 year, and the payout of the yield, it's not US dollars, is NFTs. So it's NFTs that say that each time you plant a tree, you get, you yield and you get, whatever, let's say a tree costs $100. Each time you essentially yield $100, you get an NFT, and it shows that you build a tree. People will be like, oh, well, Cyrus, that's great, but how do I sell this tree? Well, then you have to figure out how this tree makes something really great, right? So maybe you're starting to make another club. Like you want to be part of this green club. Well, you have to have 1,000 trees per year. And if you're in that 1,000 tree club, you get something other. And if you're in a 1,000 tree club now, you get another NFT that gives you votation how to have an impact, and more how you have to build this. Because what I said earlier about wealth at the end, right? Wealth is not about making money, and that's where it goes back to me. It's not the money part. It's how you essentially define your identity into the world. And at the end, crypto, blockchain is just a book. At the end of your life, you'll be able to see all the transactions that you've done. You'll be able to see all the votations that you have done, to collect all the NFTs that made you happy, the ones that you showed off, the ones that created DAOs, and the one have had a very really good impact on the world. And this is how I see the future of philanthropy, is how you could essentially change, have an impact, but as well make money while doing it. It's not a problem to make money. It's a good thing, because it just shows that it's a profitable business, and therefore more people will get into it. And that's the difference between Napster and Bitcoin. And that's why Bitcoin will still be most probably one of the best example of Web3 applications.
Awesome. Just maybe to finish, it's just personal speculations, but you said before that if we looked at 2017, 2018 top 10, most of them are not there anymore. Which are the couple of projects that you think are really interesting and maybe have already reached enough network effect to still be there in the next 5 to 10 years? And I mean, it's kind of basically to help people understand how much of all this stuff is still a lot of speculation versus how much there's actual building that makes sense, and that where it's really happening, and and so people can understand basically how risky the investing into some of these projects is. And yeah, so it's more speculation. It's not investing advice or anything. It's more like what do you see in terms of what are the few projects that you think are really not only interesting, but where there are actual builders behind it with concrete ideas, concrete execution, and that even if these markets are crazy volatile, you still have a really decent chance to do good in the next 5 to 10 years, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin, as I said, it's Abraham, so he'll be there or she'll be there forever. I think so. Ethereum as well. I mean, just the name of Ethereum, which is how people are interconnected into the dark matters. That's what Ethereum is. It's a really Indian, old school way of thinking, how you all are interconnected between what is physical and what's non-physical. And just naming that name really shows the importance of the project. And I think so, Vitalik himself, but as well the whole Ethereum community will always really try to devote their hearts to be that killer infrastructure. And I think so that's a game changer. I definitely see Binance as one that has, there's a lot of things that are complicated with Binance, but there's a lot of greatness at Binance, and they have that firepower that no one really has today. And I strongly have a big respect for what CZ has developed. I hope that there'll be more CZs in Binance and not only CZ that's taking this thing and building this thing up. I think so that will be very important to see how you go from a one-man show to a multi-man show, and that I see definitely as a great project that we'll build. Then obviously Swissborg, I can only praise our own project. For me, it's bread and butter. We do this all day. We think about it all night, and we deliver, not always on time. Some people are very, let's say, want us to build things faster. But I do believe the community that we have is just amazing. You look on Twitter, there's over 5,000 people with green eyes, and people have green eyes when the token has dropped, 70%. And they're happy and they're connected because they know we're on a mission. We're on that super fast train, and we will take that train to make it a skyrocket. And that's definitely a third project. And then for the other ones, I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a lot of them. But it's so hard to say 5-10 years, to be honest. 2-3 years, I would say a lot of them. 5-10 years, it's so different. I think Sandbox is super cool. Will Sandbox be a killer app in 2 years? I don't know. People say, yeah, it is. I'm like, okay, I can name you, 10 different protocols 2 years ago, none of them existing today. So it's a really hard game. And that's why I think so thematics is the right way to invest. At least you have those projects that come in and out, and it's rebalance into your wallets. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have some things that keep you awake at night?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I'm trying to ways to feel how I could be a better person, a better CEO as well. I think about a lot how, we're moving fast, so fast, and how we're realizing greatness into crypto. And people, probably if you're in for only a year, you don't realize it, but we see so many applications being built, and that's the beauty of Web3, is that copying Swissborg today is going to take a lot of time. Copying Aave will take probably a few days to a few weeks. And that doesn't necessarily see that people are going to move from Aave to another platform, but it still sees that you have this new way of being open, transparent, and being able to essentially improve new ways of thinking and adding things from Uniswap to SushiSwap to PancakeSwap. You see those things that are moved so fast, and I think so that's what keeps me up, where I'm saying, okay, what's the next move? When I see this new social media, which for me is a big theme that hasn't been very well played today. I mean, there was some applications 17, 18, but it just didn't take off. The new protocols like Lens and other things are going to be probably the new Twitters. This is going to be the game changer. All these new cool games cross of the ages. We're big stakers in that one, and we believe that this is going to be new GameFi games that are really cool, that are going to change as well the way of playing games, but as well getting into earning as well, and that's going to be very scalable products and projects that are going to bring greatness to us.
Awesome. Is there anything you want to add today before we wrap up?
As always, be healthy, be wealthy, and love our CHSB.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
Twitter is the main thing. Twitter for sure. LinkedIn, but it's not as fun. And cool.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Maybe one question for you. What is your big take for the next 5 years?
I mean, for me, it's really this next wave of the internet. So I was talking about this Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and this. I mean, it's still a promise, because, as you said, for example, social media and all that stuff, it doesn't exist yet. But just the fact that you're not so, for example, let's just take an example of a content creator. I mean, basically the concept of Bitcoin, but applied to everything, which is basically decentralized. And so you're skipping the middleman. And if you understand how much the middleman can have power, whether banks in the financial system, or whether even these massive companies such as Meta, Facebook, Google,
right,
or YouTube in the content creation business, or in music industry, all the labels, or in the film industry, all the etc. It's really like the empowerment of people. And so, for example, social media, if you can build this decentralized social media, and where the whole thing is basically owned by the content creators, the builders, and the audience, I mean, it can only be 100 times better, basically, because you cannot be censored. You own everything. If you're not happy with this platform, you can take your audience, you can go somewhere else. Like, the entire thing is becoming it's basically much less frictions, and it's just a better way of doing everything. And then if you apply this to every industry, if you understand this key concept, I don't see how this entire new Web3 is not going to win. And as you said before, and you saw it very early on with Ethereum in 2016 or 2017, you said basically they're all these big companies, they're done. They're done.
Uber 30% fee charge, Airbnb 12% fee charge, Booking.com 7% fee charge, and the list goes on and on. Airbnb, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and you can basically take all this money and redistribute it to different people that just deserve it more. So, like, for me, the big thing in all of that is, yes, participating as an investor into all this thing is awesome, and is probably the once in a generation wealth building opportunity.
Yep.
Fine, but it's really, why is that the case? That people need to understand is not because in 3 weeks I can become rich, because it never happens, or almost never happens. Or
right.
If you make a lot of money in 3 weeks, you're going to lose it in 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's what's the underlying thesis of why I'm going to invest there for the next 10 to 15 years? It's because it's so much better. And it's because it's going to change the life of people, and it's going to just improve it that much that it becomes an absolute no-brainer that most of my money, at least for me, should be in there. And that's again, like, how either as an entrepreneur, you navigate these crazy up and down swings, but also as an investor, you just keep your confidence and you're actually chill no matter what happens.
And the thing is that at the end, the investor is the user, and the user is an investor. And that's where, why would a taxi driver go from Uber to another network? Because he's not being charged 30% anymore, but 20%. But if tomorrow, if he's incentivized to use Uber in a very fair way, and that he's one of the first taxi driver, he will probably remain on that network for life.
Yeah,
because he's part of the team.
Awesome.
Deep.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. That was good.
Thank you,
that was
brother.
really good.
That was really cool, man.
Cool.
Thank you so much, guys.
Nice.